the opening together again. If I can get it to show up. Oh, yep, all good. Cool. So I know I've done watch the opening before, but I'm just in the mood to listen to it again.
The ocean and stars, but her cry echoes around the simple loss of love in her heart, making this whole fairy tale.
So I did notice that this kind of went in not quite reverse order of what I was recommended, but pretty close. So in terms of root order, the love interests are shown in almost perfectly reverse order from the recommended order. I do look forward to playing more of this game in general. And of course, the last image being of the two of them is a good indicator, I feel like, of them, Waltz being the, if not the true root, then certainly the final root that makes sense to have him be the one that should be played that last, just in terms of spoilery. So, anyway, sorry for showing the opening and then also talking over it a bit, but I mean, on the other hand, that's part of the point of streams, so I just wanted to enjoy the opening since I was starting the game up anyway. So yeah. So as stated in the title, and as anyone who has been watching the series would presumably already know, I will be starting today with Chapter 6 of Rod's Root. I look forward to finding out what big secret Delora and Parfait are about to reveal to Lucette. Yeah, so let's get to it. Actually, first, I want to comment on how excited I am about. So, I mean, as always, I have my water, and then today I have my fancy tea in a fancy tea mug, and it is a Golden Buds Milk Oolong, which is one of my favorite teas, so I was treating myself. Alright, yes, so onwards with Chapter 6. Let's do the usual. Chapter 6, Moving Closer. Lucette. The truth? Sorry, that was maybe a little too energetic. My only answer is silence. I shift my gaze to Rod, but he avoids my eyes. Lucette. Out loud. What is going on? Delora. Princess, it is very likely that this witch in the palace is looking for you. Ooh, I wonder why. Oh man, sorry, I'm actually really excited to, like, find out what's going on here. Like, I wonder if, like, it's something to do with her mother, because, like, I definitely have suspicions about her mother. Alright, so, Delora saying that it's very likely the witch in the palace is looking for Lucette? Lucette, what? Parfait. I cast a glamour on you a long time ago so that you could remain hidden from magical eyes. I did it to protect you, but this witch in question can see through the spell I've cast on you. It is my belief that they are actively looking for you. I close my eyes and massage the temples of my head as I feel a headache coming on. Lucette. Wait, you said before that the witches want to see their curses unbroken, but this sounds as if they have another motive altogether. What reasons could they have for trailing me? Parfait. The Tenebrarum has been without a bearer for a long time, ever since the end of the war. A new bearer, however, will soon arise, and the crystal is ready to support them. Oh? Oh? Is this gonna be, Lucette, you are like the destined bearer of the Tenebrarum? Is that what's about to happen here? Because that's really cool. Parfait continues. Some of the witches, the wicked ones, want to make sure that the Tenebrarum continues to spread darkness, even with this new bearer in charge. Lucette. Okay, but what does that have to do with me? Delora crosses her arms, her expression grim. Delora. The title of bearer is passed down from one descendant to the next. Princess, the last Tenebrarum bearer was the late Queen of Angiel, your mother. Yes! Oh man, that makes so many things make... I was really not totally expecting that, but it makes a lot of things make a lot of sense. Like, I had thought maybe Lucette's mother could be a witch. Like, there were some hints on that before. But I wasn't, like, it wasn't a fully fleshed out theory. It was just sort of a vague thought in my mind. But I had totally not expected that her mother was the Tenebrarum bearer. Like, wow, okay, that's super cool. So, anyone who has not watched, I just realized I forgot to do my little intro about the game so far thing. So, in fact, this is a great time to do that. So, other than our main plot, of course, is that Lucette is, or was, the princess of this country. This fantasy kingdom, or rather, this fantasy world kingdom. But she grew up to be very cold and outwardly cruel because her mother kind of taught her to be that way. And this witch, Delora, cursed her to try and teach her some life lessons and get her to a better point, which now makes a lot of sense why she's kind of invested in Lucette becoming a better, like, I mean, I think the thing is, Lucette's not a bad person to begin with, but, like, she did have a lot of things that she kind of needed to learn about how people actually work and how that kindness is okay and a bunch of other stuff along those lines. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense why Delora would go that far, and, like, I mean, I still think she's unnecessarily harsh to Lucette, but, like, it definitely makes some things make sense if they have this sort of urgency of, oh shit, she could become the new bearer, like, not literally, like, any day now. Like, it's suddenly really important that she learns these life lessons sooner than later, and some stuff along those lines. And, oh man, sorry, alright, and so that's the immediate story, and then the story of this world is that there are humans, fairies, and witches. Humans kind of go about their business, and fairies and witches are both guardians of these two powerful crystals. The fairies have the crystal of, like, light and goodness, and the witches have the crystal of, like, darker emotions and stuff. Darkness and darker emotions. And this isn't to say that all witches are evil, it is to say that they're just, the fairies and witches work together to try and keep these forces in balance. So the person who's bearing the crystal needs to also be kind of in balance, and so... And it's said that, like, the Tenebrarum, like, you need to have, like, a very strong... I think it was said that you kind of need to have a strong will. Let me... 1 second, sorry, I just noticed my sun lit turned off. Sorry to cut off in the middle of a sentence, but just turning that back on for a bit. So yes, so the Tenebrarum bearer under times of great stress is more likely to be corrupted by the dark influences of the crystal rather than controlling them. And so a thing happened. There was, like, a war a few years back. I've wondered before if the opening is maybe not a totally reliable, like, narration, but, like, the basic idea is a human wandered around writing a bunch of fairy tales, like, just the fairy tales we know from the real world, and then the other humans got really influenced by them and started assuming that all fairies were good and all witches were evil, and the witches got understandably pretty upset about that, and somehow this ended up leading to a war between them and the witches and the humans and fairies, which, yeah, kind of, like, devastated the kingdom and was a bad time all around. And also, in response to the fairy tale curses, one of the things that the witches had been doing is, like, it sort of pushed some of them over the edge in terms of, like, witches are already... I think the implication is to be like, witches can totally be good people, but like, you know, like anyone, they can be good and they can be bad, but also because their responsibility is keeping this sort of darkness of the Tenebrarum crystal at bay, it's easier for a witch to go down a bad path, is sort of what I have come to understand, or at least my assumption. And so a lot of witches, in frustration, decided that they were gonna start cursing, like apparently witch curses have actually been around in this world for a long time, and they would be done to like teach people life lessons and stuff, and that's what Dolores is trying to do for Lucette. But for other people, there are just a lot of very angry witches who have cursed people without particular cause, at least as so we understand, to have various curses based on fairy tale stories, because, you know, it's revenge for the fairy tales and stuff. So the fairy tale curses are usually revenge for the fairy tales, but in Lucette's case, she got a sort of reverse fairy tale curse, the riches to rags. No one remembers that she's the crown princess. And this is to just put her in a kind of different social strata that will sort of... And also, to break the curse, she has to do 3 genuinely good deeds, so it's sort of to jumpstart her personal growth, I guess. And to the point we're at in the story, she's already achieved one of them, so that's good. But yeah, no, alright, sorry, I got way off topic there, but I am super, oh man, this is so cool. And that explains a lot about her mother, because I've given this warning before, and like, I'll give it again. Anytime we have a flashback to Lucette's mother, like, it's clear that her mother was very emotionally abusive and problematic, but it makes sense in context of her mother was the Tenebrarum bearer and was buckling under the weight, essentially, is what I'm kind of getting from this, is like, so she could not keep her own, either she could not keep her own emotions in check and it started to become a problem and she started to kind of become a worse person, or maybe she was hyper paranoid since she would know it was passed down family lines, and she was like, alright, so clearly the best solution is to teach my daughter to not feel anything, which of course is a terrible plan. You can't make people not feel anything. See also the entire plot of the movie Frozen. Conceal, don't feel is not the correct answer. But yeah, no, a lot of the kind of messed up stuff her mother did makes sense in the context of her mother. Like, not to say that, you know, people can't just sometimes be bad people, but in this case it sounds like also her mother was specifically worse than she might have been otherwise because of the negative influence, because it sounds like she was definitely getting affected by the negative influence of the Tenebrarum crystal and going down a dark path, which makes me wonder if, like, Lucette's mother was, like, the main cause of the war, and, like, that could explain, like, Lucette has spent a lot of her life assuming that her father basically doesn't like her, but I'm wondering if what it is that, because she's like, man, he looks at me with more kindness as, like, some random peasant that he doesn't know than he ever did when I was his actual daughter. And I'm like, I wonder if actually, I had suspected from the get-go that she was misinterpreting something, just because, like, again, she was taught a lot of really, really, really incorrect assumptions about how people work, from her mother, and it gave her a very warped perspective on the world, but, like, it would make sense, but at the same time, it wasn't entirely clear why her father would look at her weird, because, like, I mean, while I assumed she was misinterpreting it, like, there's certainly implied that no, really, the king would, like, give her a weird look, and now it makes a lot of sense, because I wonder if it's, like, some kind of combination of, like, grief and guilt, because it's reasonable to assume that, I feel like it's reasonable to assume that the king knew his wife was a witch and the bearer of the Tenebrarum crystal, probably. Unless, of course, she's not, like, she was, like, adopted or something, but, even then, he probably knew. And so it might be that every time he looked at her, he felt, like, a lot of grief and guilt about how things went down with her mother, and so she was picking up on that and misinterpreting it as disregard for her personally. So, Anyway, yeah, alright, sorry. I was excited at the end of last stream because I knew that this stream was going to start off with some kind of big reveal, and so now the big reveal has happened, and I'm super excited about getting to see the big reveal, so. Alright, so I will attempt to move forward to actually continue progressing the story, but yes, I just was very excited and wanted to flail a bit. Alright, so, the last Tenebrarum was the late Queen of Angiel, Lucette's mother. I feel my blood go cold. Lucette. What? Delora. As you are the Queen's daughter, you are the next heir. Come your 18th birthday, you will inherit the title of Tenebrarum bearer. Lucette. Mother? A witch? Impossible! Why would you spout such lies? I narrow my eyes at them, searching for some hint that they are lying to me. Delora and Parfait never turn their sad eyes away from me. Rod glances at me briefly before turning away, looking uncomfortable. Parfait. Hildir, your mother and I used to work together to maintain balance, but then the witch hunt drove her mad and turned her heart to ice. Lucette. But she never used any magic. I would have known if she was a witch. Parfait. It's possible that you did in the past, but then it seems she erased all your memories of her true identity. Delora was already able to ascertain that most of your memories of her had been snatched away. Great. I wonder if that also included all the possible good memories of her mother from before her mother was driven mad by the witch hunts. Oh, right, that was a part I forgot when I was doing that. I completely forgot and left out of my, history there. Not only did humans go read the fairy tales and start thinking, oh, fairies are good and witches are bad, they went so far as to start hunting witches down, good old-fashioned, not good at all. I just was saying that as a sarcastic turn of phrase, but I actually want to cut that off and say, yeah, so they were going around, killing witches because they assumed that all witches were evil, and witches understandably freaked out and were like, excuse you? Sorry for the swearing, but yeah, so yeah, I definitely accidentally omitted a pretty severe part of the historical context. In fact, her mother may well have been a better person before she was, put into a really bad emotional state, which then was probably further fucked with by the fact that she was the bearer of the Tenebrarum crystal, which can negatively influence its bearer if the bearer is not in a great state of mind. Anyway, so Parfait continues. Hildir needed you to remain obedient, so that when you finally did inherit her role as the bearer, you would continue to do as she wanted. Oh no, that makes so much uncomfortable sense, too, because a lot of the ways in which Lucette's mother was was abusive was that included, she was very controlling and very, tried to teach Lucette, nobody cares about you but me, which, by the way, is just, I cannot express how enormous of a red flag that is if anybody ever tries to say to you, nobody cares about you but me, or more than me. It's a bad, bad sign. That's a huge abuse red flag. So yeah, gosh. So she was trying to train her daughter to be her own obedient puppet, basically, is what it sounds like. Oh, gosh, yikes. And I mean, maybe I can, think back idealistically and be like, maybe there was a time before the witch hunts where her mother was kinder to her, and then just, erased all those memories because kindness is not useful. And that's, extra messed up if that's the case. Anyway, Parfait... Right, so Parfait continued. Hildir needed you to remain obedient, so that when you finally did inherit her role as the bearer, you would continue to do as she wanted. My thoughts feel as if they are spinning endlessly on an axis. Delora. The real reason I cursed you was to see if you are truly capable of goodness, princess. Delora continuing. Hildir's influence clung to you even after her death, and we feared that you would continue her previous work. That Angiel might once again fall to darkness if you were not able to help the dark emotions in your heart. Lucette. So then you cursed me because you were terrified of what I would do if I became the bearer as I was. My only answer is silence. Lucette, thinking to herself. Now I understand why the people hated me. It was because I am my mother's daughter. I cannot help but reach out to touch the pendants on my necklace as a feeling of dread washes over me. Parfait. We know that there is good in you, princess. We only wanted you to realize it by breaking your curse. Parfait sighs, looking guilty. It was a selfish act on our part, I know. But we could not risk another great war. Lucette, thinking to herself. They believed that I would have plunged the world into a war? I turn to Rod, who has yet to speak since the conversation started. Lucette. Did you know all of this? Rod. Everyone knows the story of the Tenebrarum witch and her daughter. Lucette, thinking to herself. Everyone except me. I glance down at my hands, suddenly feeling numb. Thinking to herself. I am a witch, and I will become the Tenebrarum's next bearer. Just the thought of it makes me sick. I think back to my childhood. I can still recall the glares that everyone gave me when I was a child. They were scared of me because I was my mother's daughter. And what about the king? Did he never love me because I was the daughter of a witch? But if that is the case... Lucette, out loud. If my mother was so wicked, then why did the king marry her in the first place? Delora. Hildir threatened to kill the woman that he loved if he did not marry her. She threatened to kill Ophelia. Oh, that's fucked up. Oh man, oh gosh, sorry. Yeah, I normally try to keep a little bit of a minimum on the swears, but I feel like some of this has been curse-worthy. So, cool. Hildir, Lucette's mother, threatened the king that she would murder the woman he actually loved and wanted to marry if he did not instead marry her. And then, I guess, had a daughter with him? And yeah, alright, I still believe that the king cares about Lucette, but like, that's a good reason for him to be having really complicated feelings overall. At least I want to believe that the king genuinely cares about her. But man, that's all kinds of messed up. Oh, man. Oh, gosh. Okay. Sorry. Whew. Lucette thinking to herself. Ophelia? So the king has loved Ophelia from the very beginning? I clench my hands into tight fists. After Mother died, he was able to reunite with his true love. And since then, he has treated Emmeline and Rod better than he ever treated me, even though I am his daughter by blood. I want to feel angry about this revelation, but instead I feel a dreary emptiness inside of me. A heavy feeling begins to settle in my chest, suffocating my heart. Lucette, thinking to herself, oh, she's crying in the image. Oh, I'm gonna move my camera up a little because I feel like it's blocking the head a little. Thinking to herself, with tears streaming down her eyes, he never really loved me. Babby. Lucette, I would like to believe that the king never loved her mother, but, would have loved his own daughter. Or at least, I hope. Man, I'm gonna turn this on one more time. Apparently, I forgot to set an automatic timer for longer. Alright. Sorry for the interruption. So yeah. Lucette. That's so sad. I really hope that I'm right and that her father actually does love her and he just has a lot of complicated feelings and maybe even feels like he failed her. Rod. Lucette? Rod's voice snaps me out of my thoughts, and that is when I realize that a stray tear has made it down my cheek. I quickly wipe it away with the back of my hand, angry at myself for showing weakness in front of them. Oh, Lucette. Lucette, it's okay to cry. Your mother taught you bad. Your mother taught you bad things. The whole embarrassed to show her weakness in front of them. That's just so... That's unhealthy. It's okay to cry, I promise. Lucette, out loud. You must be happy to see me like this. Rod. What? Lucette. Your mother was made queen, and you and your sister became royals overnight. It's like something out of a fairy tale, isn't it? You thought you had the perfect life until I came back into it. Rod. I never asked for this to happen. I just wanted to... Rod suddenly moves his hand to Sebby's mouth, muffling whatever other words the plush was going to say for him. Lucette. What is it you want to say, Rod? Rod. It's nothing. I can rest assure you, however, that my power that comes with the crown has always been... that the power that comes from the crown has always been irrelevant to my family and I. So stop assuming that everyone around you is after your title or your riches. Did your time with my sister not teach you anything? I am about to angrily retort when I suddenly stop, my heart sinking. Lucette, thinking to herself. I have already recognized that Emmeline is more complex than I thought she was, and she has also told me that she never wanted to be a princess. Rod. My mother wouldn't have married the king if my father were still here. Delora looks between the two of us and sighs. Delora. And here I thought your relationship had improved. Now it seems like it's back to square one. I cross my arms and turn away, annoyed. Lucette. Do you have anything else to add, Parfait? If not, I would like to return to the palace. Parfait. Princess. Stay vigilant and be careful about who you trust. Lucette. Trust? How do you know whom I trust? What makes you even think I trust you? Parfait. Shock. The anger that I was expecting earlier suddenly rises to the surface. Lucette, thinking to herself. For all I know, Parfait and Delora could be feeding me lies, playing with me the way Delora did when she first cursed me. Parfait. I don't expect you to believe what we've told you. Perhaps it was not yet the right time to reveal everything to you. But please, you need to be careful. I stand up and look at them, my arms now hanging limply at my sides. Lucette. How am I meant to trust anyone when all of you have been lying to me this entire time? Parfait. Lucette. Delora. If you don't believe us, then try asking the king who Hildir truly was. Was it was or is? Yeah, truly is. Lucette, shocked. Thinking to herself, I never even thought about asking the king about Mother. Delora. Rod, you should watch your back too. It's possible that this witch in question could be plotting something against the royal family as well. They have been in the palace for a long time, after all. She looks at me, then at Rod, her expression somber. I won't be able to stay with you anymore. I had to pick up and leave a few days ago because I was certain he'd caught a trace of my magic. He probably already has. Rod. I understand. Parfait. Anyway, Lucette is right to return to the palace now. Someone may notice your absence if you're gone much longer. You two should leave now. Delora. Let us know if you notice anything unusual. Rod. I will. Parfait. We'll see you again soon, Princess. Remember, stay vigilant. Rod and I leave the March Hen in silence. Here in the secret tunnels, we are suffocated under even more silence, but neither of us makes an effort to speak. I am still stuck inside my own mind, sifting through my troubled thoughts. Lucette, thinking to herself, I cannot reconcile the fact that the wicked witch who led the witches during the war was my mother. I did not even realize how many people hated my mother until after she had passed and they spoke about how cruel a queen she was. I never understood why, since she had always been the perfect person in my eyes. I never connected my mother with the Tenebrara bearer, But what Parfait and Delora just told me makes sense. Lucette, thinking to herself. Was I living a lie all those years? A lie that my mother crafted so that I remained cold and bitter even after she passed away? Lucette, yes. Yes, you have been. And, oh gosh, I feel for Lucette a lot. This is a lot, like, to suddenly have to go through. Like, I knew she was gonna have to slowly learn that the things her mother taught her were bad, but I didn't expect it to be, like, such a whammy of, like, oh great, now a major fact has been revealed that immediately puts all of her mother's motives for everything under question. Suddenly she's needing to question everything her mother taught her in a very immediate, all-at-once way, which is less the natural progression that we had before, but is probably honestly good for her in the long run. Lucette continued to think to herself. And Delora and Parfait say I am meant to inherit the power of the Tenebrarum from my mother. I do not want that burden. I almost bump into Rod's back when he suddenly stops walking. He turns around and looks at me with a serious expression. I cannot help but feel judged beneath the weight of that gaze. Lucette. If you're going to tell me that you never wanted me as your partner because my mother was a witch, then... Rod. I wasn't going to say that. Lucette. What? Rod. I won't lie. The first time I saw you, I thought you were like your mother. You were cold, harsh, and selfish. I never wanted to have anything to do with you. That was why I was so against this partnership, but... You've changed. Lucette, shocked. Rod's expression softens. Rod, as you and Em have grown closer, I have seen that you're not like your mother. She speaks fondly of you, and I can tell she really enjoys your company. That's why, even if I do not have plans to break my curse, I will still do what I can to help you break yours. It's the least I can do as your partner. I was hoping that in the way back at some point Rod would do something like this that would be like... Because, you know, we've established that, like, Rod and Lucette have broken through a lot of emotional barriers with each other. Like, they both have, you know, they're both people who have lots of emotional barriers between themselves and others, and they've been slowly getting more comfortable with each other. So I felt like their relationship had progressed enough that it would have surprised me if he didn't have some kind of supportive comment, so I'm really glad that that actually did happen. Lucette, thinking to herself. This is the first time he has ever been so nice to me. Okay, Lucette, it's the first time he's ever been verbally so nice to you. All at once, anyway. Rod. Well, why are you staring at me like that? I'm only doing this because you're important to my sister. Okay, absolutely classic tsundere right there. Rod turns away, his face beet red. Sebi. Liar! Rod, shocked. Rod reaches up to pinch Sebi's face. Sebi. Ow! Alright. This is just, this is just so cool. I'm sorry, I'm just, like, really excited to be playing this. Alright. I'm gonna save because there's a choice. And man, I have no idea which is the right choice here, but my instinct would be that thanking... Yeah, that a thank you would be the better, but we'll find out. Lucette. Thank you. Rod turns away, his cheeks dusted pink. Rod. It's no big deal. I'm only doing this because I see how dedicated you are to breaking your curse. Sure, Rod, that's the only reason. Lucette. Because I want to get my old life back. And now that they have told me about Mother, I want to prove that I am nothing like her. Good for her. Good for her. I'm glad that she was able to, especially, like... Sorry. Like, especially given, like, again, like, how controllingly abusive her mother was and how she had so many incorrect assumptions. I'm really glad that she was able to, like, quickly internalize this as, alright, okay, so my mother was a really bad person. I don't want to be that, and I need to prove to people that I'm not. I like that. I like that she was able to get there very quickly. Alright, back on the issue with Rod, of course. Now we have Lucette saying, "Anyway, I still want to help you with your curse, Rod. Why do you refuse to break it?" Rod stares down at his feet, expressing melancholy. Rod, "Because I cannot." Rod stops and shakes his head. He says nothing else, and I do not probe him anymore, especially not after seeing the distant look on his face. I don't think I ever saw the right choice indicator, but I'll go a little further just in case. We walk through the corridor and back to our rooms after we say our goodbyes. Lucette, thinking to herself, I wonder what Rod was going to say. Yeah, alright, we've seen transitioned. Oops, nope, not log. I need to go back to the menu. Alright, so this has come up before, but I was about to say anyone watching this for the first time, but like, I actually hope that you are not watching this without having watched the previous parts. It's a very story-driven game, but just as a reminder, I do not want to see a bad ending, so I am making use of the game's correct choice indicators to go back and update my choices if it turns out that I didn't quite make the right one. Which is especially helpful since this game has so many choices that are just not immediately obvious to me. So alright. So I tried thanking him, and I don't think that was a bad option, but I never saw the right choice indicator, so I'm gonna go back and do the other option, which is probably the more correct for progressing the route choice. Presumably. So that does mean I'm going to probably reread a lot of the same stuff from that scene back again, but like, so we're basically rewinding and redoing the scene as though this had been the choice from the beginning. Lucette. Silence. And then I am choosing the answer to compliment him. Lucette. Who would have thought that you were actually capable of being nice? Rod. What? Was that supposed to be a compliment? Lucette. Yes. You are always so grumpy. I don't even think I've seen a genuine smile on your face before. Rod. I can say the same for you. Lucette. Birds of a feather flock together, then. Rod stares at me, dumbfounded. I cannot help but smile a little at his expression. Okay, that was very cute. That was a very cute back and forth. I could see how this could be the better choice. Just because that was a very cute, we are both tsundere here sort of conversation that sort of emphasizes a lot of the best points of Lucette with Rod. Rod. Shocked. Lucette. Do you really dislike the fact that we are so similar? Rod is still staring at me, wide-eyed. Rod. You just smiled. Lucette. I did not! Sebi. Rod thinks your smile is pretty. Rod. I do not! Sebi. You two really are the same. That was so cute! Oh my goodness! Oh, there's a part of me that almost just wants to go back and rerun that scene. Not because I need to go back and rerun that scene, but because everything about it was super cute. Just like Lucette being, like, giving a accidentally kind of backhanded compliment, like, wow, you can be nice, and Rod being like, wow, well, you're one to talk, and Lucette being like, well, yes, like, well, I mean, actually, you know, she said birds of a feather flock together, but then as I was trying to repeat it, my mind immediately went to like attracts like, which I think is also very true. Oh my god, that is so, and then she, like, smiles because it's kind of funny, and then Rod is like, thinks it's super pretty, and then Sebi tells on him that he thinks it's super pretty, and then they both deny that they're being cute because they're tsundere like that, and oh man, it's good, it's good. This is good times. I take a breath to calm the erratic beating of my heart. Lucette. Anyway, I still want to help you with your curse, Rod. Why do you refuse to break it? Okay, I'm gonna assume this is gonna go as before, but I can hope that maybe because they had a better interaction just there, maybe he'll be more willing to open up. No, it's probably gonna just... From here, it's probably gonna be exactly the same. Rod stares down at his feet, expression melancholy. Rod. Because I cannot... Rod stops and shakes his head. He says nothing else, and I do not probe him anymore, especially not after seeing the distant look on his face. We walk through the corridor and back to our rooms after we say our goodbyes. Lucette, thinking to herself, I wonder what Rod was going to say. Alright, and I did actually want to share, I had a random theory. So, I think most of the curses we're encountering are based on fairy tales, and it's definitely implied that Rod's curse is based on the some aspect of the Little Mermaid because he's like lost his voice. One sec. And so the little plush rabbit is like speaking in his voice for him most of the time, which also is how the little rabbit can get away with giving out his innermost thoughts occasionally, unasked for. Right, so obviously there's something going on with the Little Mermaid, and obviously Rod considers the price of breaking the curse higher than the price of the curse itself. And I've been trying to remember, like, it's been a long time since I've looked up, like, you know, the original fairy tale of the Little Mermaid, but, like, I feel like there was something where, like, I don't remember the full details, but I remember the original story and, like, ended really depressingly, and, like, maybe everyone forgot her and she turned into sea foam or something like that, and it was very sad. And so I'm wondering if it would be... I'll try to actually look that up for next time, because, like, if I'm going to comment on the original story of The Little Mermaid, I want to sound a little less vague about it, but, like, it's been making me wonder if it would have some kind of consequence, like his family forgetting him or something. And I could totally see him not considering that worth the risk if he was gonna, like, lose the people he cares about. Or if it is something to do with, like, you know, the conditions of the Little Mermaid's curse, where she needed to get the person she was in love with to fall in love with her. Or maybe she just needed to get someone to fall in love with her, and then, like, the problems with Vairika being interested in someone else could be its own problem. So yeah, I'm gonna look up The Little Mermaid, the original story, because the original story has a really depressing end, and so I'm sure that whatever the deal is with Rod's curse, the negative consequences of even just breaking the curse are probably gonna be somehow influenced by the original sadder version of the story. Anyway, now we're on to a flashback of Lucette with her mother, which is, you know, as always, little content warning here for her. As we've established, her mother was very controlling and emotionally abusive, and so I don't expect this to be a happy story or a happy flashback any more than any of the other ones have been. Young Lucette. Mother, look! Eleanor got me this gift. Mother. Eleanor? Young Lucette. She's my maid and my friend. Mother. Princesses don't make friends with their servants. Young Lucette. But she is really nice. She even taught me how to braid my hair like... Mother. Those servants are only nice to you because you are the princess. They only pretend to be your friends so that they can have power over you. Young Lucette. But Eleanor would never... Mother. What reason do I have to lie to you? Young Lucette. Mother. When have I ever lied to you, little one? Young Lucette. You have never lied to me. Hasn't she, though? Sorry. Isn't, like, almost everything that has come out of her mother's mouth been a lie? But of course a child isn't going to recognize that. I hate this. I hate her mother treated her. Mother. That is correct. Tomorrow I will remedy this situation. I will hire a new maid. You are not to befriend this one, no matter what she says. Young Lucette. Shocked. But Mother... Mother. Are you arguing with me, Lucette? Young Lucette. No, I'm sorry, Mother. Whew. Alright. That was, in fact, a lot. That was a lot. Yeah, that's another huge red flag of abuse is, you know, like I said, isolation. I'm the only one who cares about you. Isolating someone from anyone else who could ever possibly care about them. Like, yeah, her mother is just a lot of, like, classic textbook abuse patterns. Oh, I don't like it. It has been days since Parfait and Delora revealed my mother's true identity and the inevitable responsibility I am to have on my shoulders once I turn 18. I've been trying to ask the king about Mother, but he is even busier these days than he was before, and it is impossible to find a single moment in the day to speak with him. Lucette, thinking to herself, the fact that I am a maid makes it even harder to garner his attention. When I am not on break, I continue to do my duty serving Emmeline. Right now I am accompanying her as she practices her walk and posture. Ophelia has been helping her, pointing out any mistakes she finds. Ophelia. I know how hard this is, dear. I had to go through this training as well before I married the king. Emmeline allows her shoulders to slouch as she lets out an exasperated sigh. Emmeline. I've always hated these lessons. I had thought that my posture was fine. This is supposed to refine it, and yet all these lessons have been doing is hurting my back. Ophelia. Oh, Emmeline, you'll get the hang of this. You just need to keep practicing. Emmeline. But Mother, I've had this same lesson before. Why must I do it again? Ophelia. Because you slouch when you walk, and that is unbecoming of a princess. I mean, to be fair, correcting your posture is good anyway. Like, I'm just sitting here being like, man, I bet I'm hunching my shoulders. And I've definitely read that, like, when you start, like, trying to learn to keep your posture straighter, it's good for your shoulders and back, but, like, it is very painful at first, so I can sympathize a bit with Emmeline. Emmeline scowls at her mother, and Ophelia's frown falls away as she bursts into laughter. Emmeline. Mother, you're not helping! The atmosphere in the room is far from heavy as Emmeline and her mother continue to conduct their lessons. Oh, is this gonna be like for Lucette this is a relatively healthy mother-daughter relationship? Because, like, you know, in some ways it's really mimicking a lot of the things that Lucette's mother did for her, but it's a lot more lighthearted and the atmosphere is a lot more caring, and her mother is like, yes, the situation calls for this, but, like, you're scowling at me and that's actually just adorable and I'm gonna start laughing. It's just like a sign that they're, you know, at much more ease with each other and such, so. It is almost the exact opposite of the lessons I had with Mother. Yep, case in point. Lucette, thinking to herself, Mother always got angry when I made even the smallest mistakes. Hey, again, just on that list of red flags for, like, you may be suffering from an abusive situation, yeah, there's another one on the checkbox for that. Punishing you for even the most slightest mistakes, isolating you, making you feel like nobody else but them cares about you. Yeah, nah, classic stuff. Bad stuff. Ophelia. I know this is hard, but as the crown princess, all eyes will be on you during the ball. The people there will judge any small mistake you make, which is why you need to be on top form that night. Emmeline. I know. Ophelia claps her hands. Alright, now to start again. Emmeline groans before heading to the far wall and straightening her back. She takes a deep breath, puts a book on her head, and begins to walk again. Just adjusting my posture while they're talking about it in the game. The book falls from her head on her third step. She sighs, moves back, and starts the process again. Neither of us break Emmeline's concentration by speaking. We stand idly by and watch as she tries time and time again. I am surprised when Ophelia leans towards me and begins to whisper. Ophelia. Lucette, I've been meaning to say this before, but I'm grateful that you're friends with my daughter. And, in fact, now we have the exact swap where it's like, oh man, this is a little bit too literal of a swap. Don't be friends with the maid, it's unbecoming of a princess, versus telling the maid, thank you so much for being my daughter's friend. Like, yep. It's almost like Ophelia loves her daughter and wants her daughter to have friends and other people who care about her. Unlike Lucette's mother, who I think none of the above was true for. I look at Ophelia's smiling face with surprise. Lucette, thinking to herself, I never agreed to be her friend. Lucette, out loud. You are not against the princess making friends with her servants? Ophelia. Why would I be? I actually wish more of the staff here wouldn't be so uptight, since I would love for Emmeline to be on good terms with the people who serve her. Ophelia, continuing. Besides, social status is never an obstacle to friendship. Okay, one more minor aside. Social status doesn't necessarily prevent any possibility of friendship, but it can be an obstacle. Like, just to be clear here, like, that definitely affects the relationship dynamic when you are friends with someone who is also your boss. Ophelia shifts her gaze back to Emmeline, who is now picking up the book that has once again fallen from her head. Ophelia. No matter your occupation or status, a friend is always a friend. Alright, I can agree to that to some extent. Like, again, I think it creates an obstacle to getting there, but, like, you can be friends with, like, friendships can exist there. They're just complicated because of the inherent issues of that sort of structure. Ophelia, continuing. You've given Emmeline the courage she needs to face many of the challenges she has ahead of her. In a way, you're like family, since you're always around us. Lucette, thinking to herself. Like family. Ophelia. Come what may, both family and friends are there for you and will accept you for who you are. Lucette, thinking to herself. Even before I was cursed, Emmeline was always trying to be my friend. That means she knew all along who my mother was, and still wanted to be my friend. The thought makes me remember what Parfait told me about Mother threatening to kill Ophelia if the king did not marry her. I turned to Ophelia, curious. Lucette. Your Majesty, may I ask you what you know about the late Queen's rule? Ophelia looks at me quizzically, so I quickly add a thoughtless lie. Lucette. I was not an Angiel and have only heard stories. I just thought it was so hard to believe, what with how peaceful things are in the palace right now. Yeah. I noticed the music shifts as we're talking about the more serious. Ophelia. The kingdom was a dark place back then. People lived in fear under her rule. The king had no real power over Angiel. The witches had free reign over the kingdom. They cast the fairy tale curse incessantly and on a whim. We barely left our houses in fear of becoming cursed. Lucette, thinking to herself, Mother's reign was that terrible? Yeah, I believe it. Ophelia. The king still blames himself for the darkness that befell Angiel during that time. This is why he works day in and out to stabilize the country and to put smiles on everyone's faces. I remember long ago how he told me one of the reasons he would always continue to work hard for this kingdom was because he wanted to make a brighter tomorrow for his children. Ophelia looks confused for a few moments, then brushes off the awkwardness with a small chuckle. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty confident that I'm right, that the king really loves Lucette, and most of his negative feelings when he looks at her are from regretting he couldn't do more to protect her from her mother and be there for her, and like, yeah, he regardless of the situation with her mother, I believe, and it makes sense, that, like, regardless of the situation with her mother, like, her father still loves her. Like, yeah, like, not having a loving relationship with her mother and having her mother, in fact, be kind of, like, terrorizing does not mean that he could not genuinely love his child. And it sounds like he does. Ophelia. He helps the family in his own way. Lucette. Silence. Thinking to herself. Is it possible that he said that with me in mind? And Ophelia's slip-up? But then, maybe he was always referring to Emmeline and Rob. I mean, you say that, but, like, It sounds like he said that to... Okay, at least Lucette has the idea that this could be about her father. To her father talking about her, that is. Ophelia. The kingdom's come a long way since then, hasn't it? There are still witches here and there, but most of them don't bother others. I pray that the peace we are experiencing right now will last. Lucette. I see. Thank you for telling me. Ophelia. It is a bit of a dreary topic, but I'm happy to have helped. If you need anything else, don't hesitate to call on me. I know it may not be traditional protocol for a queen, but then I do not consider myself a typical queen. I try my best to listen to everyone here, regardless of what their title or name might be. And good on her for that. I can only nod at her in response. Princess or maid, the way Ophelia has treated me has never changed. She has always treated me with kindness, regardless of who I am. I never saw it before because I was always so distant from everyone, but now I see that Ophelia treats everyone here with kindness, regardless of social status. I'm glad, because that's actually a good counterexample to people are only kind to you when they want something from you, is like, here is someone who is kind to people who can do nothing for her. She's just kind for the sake of being kind. Lucette thinking to herself. I was always frustrated by the servants when they compared Ophelia to Mother, saying that she was superior. But now, I think I understand why they would make such comparisons. I mean, yeah, I think I would understand too if the previous queen was actually, like, the leader of the evil witches, or the angry witches, who were actively initiating war with the whole rest of the world. Emmeline dismisses me after my lessons, and I begin to head immediately back to my room. I have just turned a corner when I notice Sir Alcaster standing before me, scowling. Sorry, just needed to silence something here. Right, so Sir Alcaster, who is Fritz's father, I have suspicions about, but so far, on the one hand, I still think it's more likely that Sir Mithros is the secret witch, but, like, Sir Alcaster has also been acting pretty suspicious, and, like, Sir Mithros is the really obvious option. There's always a chance that it's not the really obvious option. And regardless, either Sir Alcaster knows exactly who Lucette is, or I guess there is a possibility that he just really hated her beforehand and is just having this sort of back of his head, like, oh, thank you for the follow, Tarakan. I'm gonna stick with the first half of that. Tarakan, thank you so much for following me. I hope you will enjoy. I am on chapter, as it says in the title, I'm on chapter 6 of this, so I'm playing Rod's route, but this is my first time playing Cinderella Phenomenon, and this is the first route that I've played, so all of the information is still very new to me. So, like, I just found out that, like, the main character's mother is the Tenebrarum Crystal Bearer, she is the next. There's a bunch of really cool stuff that's been revealed. So anyone watching, feel free to ask questions at any time. I can explain anything going on in the game, and yeah, thank you for watching. Emmeline dismisses me after my lessons, and I begin to head immediately back to my room. I have just turned a corner when I notice Sir Alcaster standing before me, scowling. Alcaster. Watch where you're going, child. I quickly avert my gaze, not wanting a confrontation. Lucette, thinking to herself. He always looks at me so strangely, almost like he can see into my mind, or is trying to. Lucette, out loud. My apologies, Sir Alcaster. Sir Alcaster nods his head at me stiffly before walking off. Oh, whoops. I wonder if Alcaster... I definitely got the impression that Alcaster was trying to pretend that he didn't recognize Lucette, but he has just said, "You are pardoned, princess." Meaning he called Lucette princess, meaning he has just revealed that he knows that she is the princess, which nobody should be able to remember because of her curse. In fact, Lucette, shocked. I turn to stare after him, but he has already turned the corner. My blood becomes cold. Lucette, thinking to herself. Was that just a slip of the tongue? But how else could he know that I am the princess? Is it possible he is cursed? No, somehow that does not seem right. But if he does not have the fairy tale curse, Could he be the witch Delora warned me about? What reason would he have for unveiling his identity then? Unless he just wants to intimidate me further. It occurs to me that Fritz still remembers who I am. Lucette, thinking to herself. Did he tell his father about me? Now I am even more confused about whom I should trust. Rod. Lucette? I jump when I hear Rod call me. His expression slowly creases with something that looks like worry. It looks like worry because it is worry. Or at least so I believe. Rod. You're pale. Did something happen? Lucette. Would he believe, thinking to herself, would he believe me if I told him? Alright, I'm gonna save this, but I vote tell him. Like, I'm super in favor of telling him, so much so that I will actively be disappointed if the game tells me that was the wrong choice. I definitely finished saving that, yes. So, let's... fingers crossed. Lucette. Sir Alcaster knows I am the princess. Do you think he is the witch Delora was talking about? I whisper the words to him, and he responds by raising his eyebrows, looking surprised. Rod. What makes you say that? This isn't just because of the standoffish way he acts, is it? Lucette. You don't believe me. Rod sighs. Rod. I never said that I didn't. It's just that we can't blindly accuse anyone without any real proof. Rod stares at me for a few moments, then closes his eyes, his eyebrows slightly furrowed with thought. Rod. Sir Fitzgerald also remembers who you are. Lucette, thinking to herself. I do not want to be so suspicious of Fritz, but I don't think blindly trusting him would be right either, given these circumstances. Rod. You need to stay vigilant around him. If anything happens, you can come talk to me about it. Lucette. You're worried about me? Rod averts his gaze from me. Rod. Of course I am. Yes! Alright, right choice indicator means that I was correct. The answer was, in fact, to speak up and tell him what was going on. Like, they're partners, they're working together. Like, Rod needs to know these things. And also, like, I mean, especially since I am following the route in which Rod is the main love interest, I'd be really surprised if Lucette could not trust him. So, yeah, no, I'm very pleased. I would have been very disappointed in the game if telling him had not been the right answer. Rod. And she asked if he was worried, and he just shoots back immediately, of course I am. Aw, I love it. In fact, so Rod says, of course I am. And Seppi says, wow, you're actually being honest. Rod, shocked. Lucette, what? Rod glares at Seppi before pinching his cheeks. Rod, anyway, I must leave now. I have a dance to practice for. Lucette, dance? But you already know how to dance. What do you have left to practice? Rod does not answer and only walks away. I decide to follow after him. I wonder if he's just leaving because he's embarrassed. I decide to follow after him. Rod, why did you follow me? I shrug. Lucette, I wanted to see you practice. To be honest, I wanted to see him. I want to see him dance. I already know that Emmeline is very clumsy when it comes to dancing, but outside of the one practice with Emmeline, I have never seen Rod dance. I mean, Lucette, you literally danced with him, but I also think that this is cute, and she is developing an actual crush on Rod as, you know, the relationship is progressing. And so it makes total sense for Lucette to be just interested, even though she has literally danced with him. I think it's cute that she's like, she just followed him because she wanted to see him practice dancing. Emmeline always gloats on his behalf, but I have yet to witness Rod's supposed talent with my own eyes. Our dance together was so short, I barely had any time to judge him. Sure. Sorry, a lot of this just feels like Lucette convincing herself that that's all it is, but, I mean, yeah. Rod, I do not practice with an audience. Lucette, why? Rod, it is my preference. Seppi, Rod is easily embarrassed. Rod groans and pinches one of Seppi's cheeks, glowering. Seppi, sorry! Rod reluctantly releases the bunny with a sigh. Lucette. I notice you've been talking more lately, Sebi. Sebi. Oh, that's because Rod here has been saying things that contradict with what he thinks or feels. Sebi makes a sound of defeat as Rod once again pinches one of his cheeks. Oh, because he's softening up. And talking more open, and he's trying, so Rod is softening up towards Lucette and probably also slowly developing feelings, and so he's getting more in the habit of saying something that is not what he means because he's trying to hide it, and or is embarrassed. In, classic tsundere function. Okay, I just was drinking from my tea, and my tea has, this big open mouth, and it splashed back into my face. So sorry for the brief interruption. Alright. Sevi makes a sound of defeat as Rod once again pinches one of his cheeks. Lucette. Ah, silence, but Lucette is smiling because she thinks it's probably thinks it's endearing. Rod. Shocked. Rod stares at me with wide eyes, and I stare back, beginning to panic. Lucette. What is wrong? Rod. You smiled again. I put my hand to my mouth, flushing. Lucette thinking to herself. I was smiling again? I never even noticed. Sebi. It was a pretty smile, princess. Right, Rod? Rod quickly turns away, cheeks slightly pink. Rod. I need to practice now, so I would appreciate you leaving. Lucette, thinking to herself. He did not even command me to leave. What a surprise. Lucette. Emmeline said you were a really good dancer. I want to see it with my own eyes. Rod. Why? So you can judge me? I have a thought on which choice I'm gonna pick, but first we gotta do the traditional save. Alright, here's one where I think the choice that makes more sense, and makes more sense for what Lucette would say, is I am sure that I am a better dancer than you, just because I think that works really well with their cute rivalry. But we'll find out. We'll find out. And worst case, I'll just go over and replay it. The scowl on Rod's face deepens. I almost smirk. Lucette, thinking to herself, maybe he is reluctant to show me, but Rod is also full of pride. He is more likely to show me if I pose a challenge. Rod, you didn't even answer the question. And are you underestimating my dancing? Lucette, the others may have forgotten, but you still remember, do you not? I am a princess, and I was taught by the kingdom's best instructor. I say the words with pride, and I notice Rod's lips twitch in response. Lucette thinking to herself, it actually makes me feel accomplished to get under Rod's skin when he is usually the one getting under mine. Rod, having the best instructor does not automatically make you the best dancer. I'm pretty confident with my own skills. Lucette, say what you want, but I will refuse to believe you without any proof. I still say that I am a better dancer than you are. Yes, I was right. I was right. That was the correct answer for their dynamic. And was very cute. Rod steps forward and pulls me suddenly into his arms, taking me by surprise. He looks at me, clearly determined. Rod, fine then, you'll have your proof. I will make you swallow those words with this dance. Lucette, we shall see. Rod starts leading the dance. He glides us into the imaginary rhythm of a waltz. Even without the music, I am able to count the steps in my head as I follow his lead. Lucette, thinking to herself, this is different from that short dance that we showed Emmeline. Rod's movements are graceful, his touch gentle as he leads me to an underarm twirl. Yes, good. When I come to face him once again, I notice the gentle way he stares at me. The usual hardness of his expression is gone, melted into something relaxed. I find myself staring back at him, looking into his eyes. Perhaps Rod does have some gentleness to him. Our gaze does not break as he twirls me. Rod, you have beautiful eyes. Lucette, shocked. Rod's eyes widen as soon as mine do. He abruptly lets go of my hands and steps back. I can only stare at him, my face warm. Sebi, it wasn't me this time! It was more than just a thought, I swear! Sorry, I just love Sebi being like, no, I swear I didn't actually tell on him. He just said that. Oh, I like that. Rod says nothing, though his cheeks continue to darken with embarrassment. Emmeline. Oh my. Rod and I turn to look at Emmeline, who is hovering by the door. Rod. Excuse me. Rod quickly walks through the doorway and out into the hallway, leaving Emmeline and I alone in the room. Lucette, thinking to herself, what just happened? You were adorable and like, oh, because you know the challenging each other thing. That is very much how you're gonna get to tsundere type characters to be flirtatious with each other. And now Emmeline probably ships it. I'm excited. Emmeline. That was a wonderful dance, Lucette. Lucette. You were watching? Emmeline. I only just saw the last few minutes, but, you know, the two of you really did look like a couple. It was sweet. Lucette. A couple? Emmeline. Oh, you're blushing. Emmeline ships it. I'm right. Emmeline ships it. I put a hand to my cheek and turn away with a scowl. Lucette. I am not. Thinking to herself. Besides, whatever just happened was embarrassing. And not sweet or romantic at all. She thinks to herself. That's not what she actually says. That's just me continuing her thought. Emmeline. Do you like Rod? I stare at her. Lucette. I do not. Also, you are forgetting that I am the maid who could not be with the prince even if I wanted to. Lucette, thinking to herself. He is grumpy and cold. And even though we are not blood related, he is still... Okay. Yeah, this is a thing where I kind of stopped doing a content warning. Even though we're not blood related, he is still my stepbrother. If only Emmeline realized how crazy her words were in light of the truth. Now, that's the thing. I don't want to draw a huge amount of attention to it, but, like, it is a thing that even going into this romance, like, knowing that they are step-siblings, at first I was kind of a little... but... They only started living together at, like, a year previous to this, and so I actually think it's not... Like, it's legally by marriage, but they are not they did not remotely grow up together, so it's just awkward, which actually makes me wonder all the more if breaking Rod's curse will involve somehow some kind of severing from his family, just because then that would be sort of a neat way to wrap that up such that it's not awkward anymore, especially if the game is going to come back to the point of them being step-siblings. Like, the obvious... If the game's going to make a point of pointing that out as an obstacle, then it makes sense that something might happen to remove that as an obstacle. And I doubt that the king's going to divorce Ophelia, so it seems more likely that something would happen with... Which, you know, I actually did have the thought where, like, if there's something like Rod's family forgets him, or he, like, is somehow just no longer part of the family because of his curse, or, like, maybe he's only part of the family with this curse, whatever. Like, I mean, if that's his big concern, that he doesn't want to lose his family by breaking the curse, I mean... I just feel like marrying Lucette is a really good shortcut to, oh, you're still part of the family, and now it's not, and now the step-sibling things is no longer an awkward issue. So yeah, that is a pure theory craft by me that is just, well, that would be one way to make this a little less awkward. Yes, so... Emmeline suddenly looks starry-eyed as she giggles at me. Emmeline. Love knows no boundaries, dear Lucette. Besides, he seems to like you. Lucette. Your brother hates me. Emmeline. Rod can be a contradiction sometimes. Sometimes he says the opposite of what he feels. It's only when you get to know him as well as I do that you realize what his truths are. Aww, I'm sorry, I just think it's cute that Emmeline, like, Emmeline and Rod are 100%, like, siblings by blood who grew up together, at least as far as I'm aware. And so, yeah, it makes sense that Emmeline is, like, long since learned Rod's tsundere ways. Yes. He always he blusters and he puts up a front, but like what he actually means and is thinking and is feeling is like much kinder and sweeter most of the time. I cannot help but think of Sebi, who always speaks Rod's thoughts aloud. Who always speaks Rod's thoughts aloud when they are contradictory. Emmeline. He was always so mean to Viorica when we were young. He would always bully her for being a crybaby, even though he cried far more often. But then I realized that he treated her more special than he did anyone else. Back then, I knew that he liked her. I thought that one day the two of them might even grow to love each other, but... Well, I'm gonna say I don't approve of the whole bullying a person because you like them. I think that's not, I mean, not for realsies. Like, I mean, I actually think my only problem with that is he bullied her for being a crybaby, and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with crying. Crying is a natural emotional function. Like, crybaby is not a thing. All that is to say, it's okay to cry. But yeah, I mean, there is a certain amount of like affectionate teasing that is I totally can get behind. Anyway, so back on. Oh, we're getting some of the backstory with Rod. So Emmeline does know that Rod had a crush on Viorica, so she probably, that makes sense. So she's probably pretty aware that why Rod has been treating Viorica so coldly is because Viorica is getting married to someone else, and so she probably more or less knows what's going on, and just her responses to it previously in the game have been her trying to be like, this is not the way to handle things, Rod. And she's right. Anyway, Emmeline lets out a long sigh as she directs her attention out the window. Emmeline. His attitude towards her has changed ever since he was cursed. Then they grew even more distant when Viorica found a lover. Lucette. Is that the reason why you've been going to the toy shop with Prince Rod? Because you want to bring them back together? Emmeline nods. Emmeline, out loud. The three of us were best friends. The Three Musketeers. It's not the same without Rod. I keep on asking him what's wrong, but he refuses to tell me. He's always been stubborn, but it's not like him to keep secrets. It's really frustrating because I have no idea what I should do to help him. Okay, I must admit, when I was reading that, I first had a thought where I'm like, what do you mean he refuses to tell you what's wrong? It's very obvious what's wrong. He's upset because he likes her and she's marrying someone else, but then I'm like, no, because she just established that this started when he got cursed, not when Viorica found someone else. Which has me back to thinking that it's something, the curse definitely has something to do with, like, the whole being in love with someone thing. Like, it's... I think him being in love with someone is definitely going to tie into the rules around his curse. And maybe he just didn't want to drag Viorica into that. But anyway, I look forward to finding out more about, like, what is going on with Rod's curse, so... Lucette thinking to herself. I thought he was just being stubborn with me, but apparently no amount of prodding, even from his own family, would make him budge. Why is he being so difficult? Lucette, out loud. I hope you do not mind me asking, but what do you know about his curse? Emmeline stares at me for a few moments before nodding. Emmeline. You're my friend, Lucette, and I know that I can confide in you. Lucette, thinking to herself. I know that sometimes I am not trusting enough, but I think Emmeline is still far too trusting. I mean, you're not wrong, Lucette, but I think it actually is perfectly appropriate for Emmeline. I think Emmeline's probably is too trusting, but at the same time, like, she's bonded with Lucette. They've actually gotten quite close as friends, and also on top of that, she just saw that very cute scene with Lucette and her brother, and is probably thinking to herself that maybe this is someone who should be read in on the whole thing, whatever is going on with Rod. Emmeline. We only know that he has the mermaid's curse. I've read the story so many times, hoping that I can figure out some way to break his curse. I think back and realize that I had actually read the beginning of The Little Mermaid a long time ago, but I did not have the chance to finish it because I was caught by Mother. And that also now makes a lot of sense why Lucette's mother would absolutely not allow her to read any of the fairy tale stories, because that was the whole thing that started causing, that's caused public perception of witches to go down the drain and to start persecuting witches, which led to the whole problem. Lucette. The Little Mermaid is about a mermaid who trades her voice for legs, right? Emmeline. Yes, she does it so she can be with her prince. Rod's voice was taken away, but I'm sure he was given something in exchange. I've heard that the curses are derived from the original tales, but they are twisted in some way to fit the format of a curse. I nod slowly, thoughtful. Lucette thinking to herself. I have a strong feeling that Rod's curse is related to Viorica, but I cannot draw the connection. But still, Viorica might be the key to understanding his curse. If Rod will not divulge anything, then the next best chance we have of understanding his curse might be going through Viorica. Maybe it's even something as simple as he needs to get, like, Viorica to, like, I know in the story, the Little Mermaid, like, needed the prince to fall in love with her, but, like, maybe he needs people to fall out of love with him, and then that is just sad, and that's why he didn't want to do it. Because it does have to be a curse, so it's gonna be some twist. Anyway, so that concludes Chapter 6. So it sounds like Chapter 7 is going to involve Lucette going to the toy store to talk to Viorica to try and learn more about Rod's curse, and that'll be interesting because, like, oh man, there's just, this story is so cool, and I'm really enjoying playing this game, and I think this is not as this is something that I think is going to be more appealing for people to watch after the fact rather than watch me streaming it live, unless they're actually able to start at the beginning. But when I move to the next route, I'm going to start over from the prologue, just so any new people who want to, like, jump in at the beginning and can actually be there for the streams can hopefully start from a good place. But if not, I think it's fine. Like, I like live streaming. I like the option for people to kind of drop in and chat, so I'm probably going to keep doing it this way. Well, I say probably. I'm definitely going to keep doing this way for the foreseeable future, certainly for the rest of Rod's Route, and probably I'll just do it for the whole game, but I am aware that it is, like, less intrinsically popular as a thing to stream, but I think that it is worth watching after the fact, so, like, I'm excited that, like, people are engaging with the video on YouTube, for example. And so I'm definitely going to keep playing it, and I'm definitely going to keep posting it. At the moment, I have no plans to stop live streaming it, but if I did, I would still be playing the game and doing this commentary like I've been doing. The only change I would make would be recording it without streaming. But again, I really like streaming, so, and although it's not frequent that I have people drop in, I like that option being there, so like I said, for now, I'm certainly sticking with streaming, and I don't want but I also don't want anyone to worry that there is a chance that I would stop posting my playthroughs of this game. I will, even if I decided to start streaming, I would just do this as, like, a Let's Play kind of deal, and just record the videos and then post them later, but yeah, like I said, at this time, I don't actually plan to switch to doing that. I plan to stick to streaming. And, you know, I'm hoping maybe I can get some more people to join into the live stream when I go back around and I start from the beginning again. But in the meantime, I really hope that people will watch these videos on YouTube and enjoy them. Or even on my Twitch channel, because all the videos are still up, and should be for at least another month. So yeah, if you're watching this after the fact, just know I appreciate you so much. I'm having so much fun playing this game, and I hope that people are enjoying watching me play it, and you are all wonderful, great people, and I appreciate you, and I'll be back with Chapter 7 next week.